Hey bookworms, and welcome back to my channel for my last video of 2023, and let me say thank God this year is over. This was such a horrible, difficult year for me, at least, both in my personal life and in the world. We suffered great tragedies, and honestly, I'm glad it's over and I am hopeful for the next one. So in this video, I will share with you my favorite and least favorite books I've read. So let's sum up this year. If you never watch any of my year recaps, I will let you know that none of these books were actually written in 2023, and I will talk about the best 5 and the worst 5 books in no particular order. So here they are. Let's start with the best 2023 reads. We are starting with a bang. My number 1 favorite read from 2023, which is also almost the oldest book I've read. This was The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. Didn't I just say in no particular order? Well, except the first one. Oh my god, you guys, this book is just so good. Complex, yet not as heavy as I thought it would be. It had some great, funny, reminiscing moments, and I enjoyed it so much. It tells the story of the Joad family who lived in a farm in Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl in the 1930s, and how they journeyed to California in a search of a better life, and all the different people and communities they meet on the way. You laugh, you cry, you gasp, you rage. This is amazing. Let's continue with the time period, but go from the US to the USSR, because next is The 12 Chairs by Ilya Iliev and Yevgeny Petrov. This is a satirical and hysterical novel about two people, an ex-nobleman and a charming con artist, who race all across Russia in order to find the former's family jewels who were hidden inside one of 12 chairs. Now, yes, this book is very culture specific, and yes, at times there were jokes I missed, but boy did I enjoy it. When it was good, it was great. Next, we have Children of Men by P.D. James. This is a dystopian novel with a movie version which is very different, so be aware of that. In the futuristic world of the book, which takes place in 2021, humankind has lost the ability to procreate and people are starting to die out. And we follow a low-level politician as he starts associating with a group of rebels who basically want to better the conditions of the people. This was a very interesting, very well-written book, but do note that unlike the movie, it is a slow burn that takes its time and definitely isn't for everyone. So I liked it and recommend it, but watch my full review if you want to know if this book is even for you. Next is The Queen of the Night by Alexander Chee. The life story of an opera singer from the 19th century, from her very humble beginnings to her becoming a huge success. A life that kind of resembles an opera in itself. Now, I always love combination of real history with fiction, and this fictional life story is so interesting and written with such great depth that immerses you into the time period. However, if you need perfect logic and a fast pace, maybe this book isn't for you, because some of the decision-making process of the characters was not existent. For example, but if you like feminine life stories or historical fiction of Europe in the 19th century, this is a really good one. And lastly, on the best side of the list, we have Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This is a contemporary novel about the titular Eleanor, who seemed to have a normal life with a 9-to-5 job and a crush she's trying to get the attention of, but it's also the story of the loneliness of mental illness, because Eleanor, who is completely tactless and acts like she never met a human being before in her life, is very much not fine. This book is a fascinating page-turner that gives us a glimpse into the mind of someone with a very unique thinking pattern. It has many sad moments, but it's also very hopeful, and I was really happy whenever people were positive influence on Eleanor, about as much as I was frustrated with Eleanor whenever she missed a really obvious social cue. So those were the 5 best books I've read in 2023. Now let's talk about the worst books I've read the past year. And again, we'll start with the obvious choice. One of the easiest decisions on this list is no doubt The Porpoise by Mark Haddon. So far, this author only wrote 1 book I liked, and this one definitely wasn't it. The Porpoise tells 2 stories, one of an incestuous relationship between a rich father and his sheltered daughter, and the second is of a hero's journey in ancient Greece. Now, what are those 2 stories have in common? Who knows? Why were they written like that? No idea. What was the point of this book? You got me. Strange, weird, uninteresting book, and if you have any idea of the point behind it, do let me know. Next, we have Crazy by William Peter Blatty, who wrote 2 books I read this year, but you won't find The Exorcist on this list. Crazy isn't a bad book per se, but very forgettable and had almost no impact on me. This is a memoir-style book of a boy's childhood in the 1940s, about how he meets and befriends a girl with lots of freckles and attitude. But then she disappears, and no one other than him seemed to remember she ever existed. If that sounds like a cool idea, you would be right. The problem is that other than this interesting what-if concept, this book doesn't have much to offer. The book was predictable, a chore to read, and honestly felt like a waste of my time. And I've already forgot half of it. Next, we have a book that I ended up not reviewing, and this was Third Girl by Agatha Christie. I have a collection of Agatha Christie's books and I slowly read my way into all of them, and Third Girl was written in 1960s when her books were not as good as her early works. If you don't know, Agatha Christie wrote detective books and she's the queen of the classic style of detective books. And this one starts with a bang when a young girl seeks the help of Belgian detective Hercule Poirot because she might have committed a murder without knowing it. But then she changes her mind and flees from his apartment. Poirot is intrigued and starts investigating and finds out that this young woman lives in an apartment building and everything probably has to do with a death that occurred there. This detective book wasn't very interesting, wasn't very thrilling, and honestly, she has much better novels. Next is The Perfect Guests by Emma Roos. This is a thriller with 2 timelines. In the first, 14-year-old orphan Beth is sent to be the companion of Nina, a young girl living in a secluded great house, and everything is fine until Beth realizes just how odd Nina's family is. The second timeline happens in the same house 30 years later, where a murder mystery dinner is taking place, and we now follow Sadie, the actress, who is hired to play a character in this game. This thriller was nothing special. It really tries hard to appear unique, but ends up looking convoluted and just plain weird. Also, the entire present timeline was so unnecessary, and other than Sadie, I didn't like any of the characters. The book felt like a mess with way too many ideas that made it feel very unfocused. Basically, the idea was better than the execution. And lastly, we have another book that I decided not to review, The Titian Committee by Ian Pierce. I found this book in a secondhand bookshop, and since I absolutely loved An Instant of the Finger Post by the same author, I decided to read this one. This is a detective book about a murder of an art scholar who is a part of a committee dedicated to confirming paintings as being by the artist Titian. Sorry, my knowledge about paintings is very limited. Anyway, this book was this cute 90s detective story, but rather silly and forgettable. It was especially disappointing having read Pierce's previous book, which was like 4 times the size and 1,000,000 times more interesting. And guys, those were my favorite and least favorite books of 2023. Of course, if you're interested in my full reviews, I will link them all in the description box, and feel free also to check out the other books I managed to read this past year. And of course, I'd like to hear what you have to say. Did you read any of the books I mentioned? What were your favorite and least favorite books of 2023? Let me know in the comment section. And with this, I finish this video and this year. Guys, thank you very much for your support. I hope you enjoyed this video, but also just generally my content. I am planning a bit of a facelift for my channel. I'm just generally working on improving everything. Maybe you've already seen that I have a new banner and small stuff like that. The rest is yet to come. So show my new enthusiasm some love with a like and subscribe. So guys, with that, I bid you farewell for now. Thank you again for everything, and I will see you in 2 weeks as usual for a new book review. Goodbye.